The moment that the buzzer goes off, the shoulders drop a little bit. He got all welled up inside. I'm already getting a little cracky just thinking about that moment because you just wanted it for them so bad, and I wanted it for my coaching staff so bad. And I think when I looked across the court, I saw some shoulders drop too. They're like, "We did this."
Welcome back to Building a Champion, where we explore what it takes to build elite programs and lasting legacies in athletics. Today's episode takes us to a university that is rewriting the record books with over 30 national championships since 2002. Grand Valley State University is the gold standard in NCAA Division II. And leading this powerhouse department is athletic director Keri Becker, a former coach, a bold leader, and someone who knows exactly how to build champions. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me and doing this.
We are so glad to have you here. You guys have had a record season. This year alone, GVSU has brought home not one, but two more national titles. The women's basketball team captured its second national championship, and the women's track and field team earned its fifth NCAA title, its first outdoor championship in 13 years. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been
Busy
fun to ride
couple
the
months.
coattails of amazing people.
Yeah, you have had a busy couple months over there at the university, a lot of excitement going on. What has campus been like these past couple months?
I think, we have 23,000 students, 18,000 undergrads, 700 student athletes. So there's never a dull moment. And I think, athletics is just one part of our university that is exciting and robust. And I love that we can add value to our campus atmosphere, to the environment. Now within athletics, yeah, it is. We always talk about, we kind of make fun of some of our colleagues who in the end of April are already thinking about going on vacation and kicking their heels up. It's the end of the year. They've hosted their last home event. We're just ramping up and we feel so grateful that we stay super busy all the way through Memorial Day weekend. Um, and even beyond, our baseball team was so close to getting on that run. And so we talk about it. It's a great problem to have because you play games, you play sports to win. And so the longer you can go postseason, obviously the better, right? There's a great energy that can bring. But also it's trying on your staff. The year is long. You have the crossover season between fall and winter and spring. The further our teams go each season, that crossover just creates more work. Well, that's the kind of work we look forward to.
That is the objective, isn't it? Let's jump right into that national basketball championship. The team showed grit, composure, total buy-in. From your seat as the AD, what was it like watching them bring it home on a national stage?
It's special, right? I think I've experienced a number of national championships, and they're all special in their own way. They all have a story behind them. Women's basketball was no different this year. I joined the team in Pittsburgh for the entire week. Um, and they true had, I think sometimes they make it look easy. It wasn't easy. We had sickness go through our team. And I think if you're there, you kind of knew about it. We spent a ton of money on hotel rooms trying to separate sick kids, try to separate kids that wouldn't get sick. It affected their experience to partake in some things. But you know what? Each day a kid would get sick, and it's like, oh boy, which kid is this? And then you're taking them to the emergency room, doing the stuff you need to do to get them ready for that Monday game. And so through that, the story is the amount of resiliency really showed up. And in the amount of just setting everything else aside because again, it affected just the, banquet that we went to, and we had to come in and go in the back. We ate first, and we were in and out because we didn't wanna get the rest of the team sick. I mean, but you know what? As I was around the hotel with all of those our student athletes, they just made the best of it and just really but they also looked at it as a business trip. It wasn't about having fun. They're like, we have one thing, one goal in mind. So they stayed very resilient, stayed very composed. And I think that was the key to composure through it. When we played the game Monday night, the first game, and I think they needed to get through that. we had another kid get sick after that, but it was like, "Okay, next person up." And I think that spoke to the depth of the team, everybody understanding their roles. I think to the messaging the coaches were giving and just the confidence they had in our athletic training staff and in each other. And so I think and then you go to the Wednesday game, and then you feel like, "Okay, we're getting there, we're getting whole." Everybody feels 100%. But just that confidence too, when you can win a game, when you got a few key players, maybe at 70%. Again, it just different kids at different times stepped up and just pulled together. And I think that's what makes it a kind of cool story. And anytime at the end of it, if you can win a national championship, man, it was a special feeling. I've been a part of national championships. This one felt differently, maybe because, and I can't put my finger on it. Maybe because they all feel special and they all feel different because there's always a story behind every one of them. But this was cool to be a part of.
Explain the feeling in that arena when they did clinch that title.
The shoulders drop a little bit. I remember standing up the whole time, and I actually left the seat that I was sitting in to go around to the concession. I just stood there, had a little rocking going on, and some people were trying to talk to me, and I'm like, and I'm very extroverted. I love to talk, but I'm like, look, I need to watch this game. So there was this, but they never ever faltered. It's like, they led, and there were some moments where you thought the momentum would swing the other way. So the moment that the buzzer goes off, the shoulders drop a little bit. You get all welled up inside. I'm already getting a little cracky just thinking about that moment because you just wanted it for them so bad. And I wanted it for my coaching staff so bad. And I think when I looked across the court, I saw some shoulders drop too. They're like, we did this, right? And then I watched. I didn't go down on the court right away. I just wanted to watch and take that moment in, to see and allow them to celebrate with everything flying in the air and just that excitement. So it was more of an observation, and it was a calmness, a quietness, that was really that allowed me to take in that moment. Because I always remembered the stories of people like, "Oh, I forgot. I was just so excited. I didn't see that. I didn't see that." I wanted to make sure I saw everything, and I made sure I scanned the crowd, not the crowd, but I scanned the team. I wanted to make sure I looked at every single one of them, to see how they were reacting in that moment.
What
Were
do you
there a
think
lot of
that well,
Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
what do you think is there certain traits or what kind of led this team to go through that sickness, overcome some of the adversity? Was it leadership? I think sometimes as adults we don't understand, even though young adults at that age are probably more resilient than what we think they are. So, I mean, but
Yeah.
is there something that you think helped them overcome some of that adversity?
We talk a lot about leadership. We give a lot of juice to leadership, but I think we need to give more, and I'm gonna make up a word, and I've talked to my staff and teams about this, teammateship. Being a good teammate, what that looks like. In today's world and environment of divisiveness, whether you're talking politics or house settlement or whatever, right? Where's in such a polarizing environment. And then the idea is, in terms of when you double down on the culture you're building, is sometimes I think we go so far in leadership, just how can we be good colleagues? How can we be good teammates and show up in a way that no matter our differences, that we truly all have a sense of belonging, a sense of value, and that we all matter ultimately, right? And I think this team really did a great job in that. Because I think there's a lot of there's your star quote unquote players that get a lot of the attention, but then it seemed to ebb and flow, and that never mattered, right? So I think the secret sauce is their ability to be great teammates.
You
I like that
are
one.
you graduating a lot of seniors?
Riley Bisbal was a big one. Ellie Drosty. So a lot, not a lot, but key, right? But when you look at what's left, you're really excited about it too.
At what point in that championship game did you know that you guys had the victory?
Oh, I don't think you ever know until the buzzer goes off. I think I just had a feeling. I felt like the Monday game was the toughest game. And then I can't even remember the Wednesday game hardly. But then the Friday game, I felt like there was one moment in the game I'm like, uh-oh. Because they're just a real our opponent was a real scrappy team and had player of the year, etc. Had thrown up a lot of points all year long, and I thought, uh-oh. But then the way in that moment, I can't even remember the moment, but I thought probably 5 minutes after that, it might have been the 3rd quarter, I'm like, "We got this. I know we got this." But then there were still moments. I was still nervous.
Basketball, it can change real quick.
Oh, yeah. Couple threes here and there. Yeah, the momentum can shift fast.
Well, just as the buzz was settling from that win, then your women's track and field team goes and delivers another one. Two individual national champions you guys had, and then also the team title to top it off. What did this championship mean for the program and the department?
This one was because, in some ways we got lucky. In some ways, it showed up that every point mattered. We had, you have events like the coaches, track coaches, they already know the equation. They already know how the points will stack up if they do what they're supposed to do because everybody's thrown certain distances, ran certain times. They kind of say, well, if it plays out as the times, this is how many points. They almost already know going into it that if we stay here, this is where we'll end up. But if we get some special performances, hey, we could do this. But then if you get some people that maybe don't perform, we had a shot putter that goes in the favorite and doesn't score. Faults 3-4. Well, that's a swing of a lot of points. But then you have what our women did in the 1500. Boom, come 1-2. And then you had some people that might have been hurt or dinged up. And then all of a sudden, and track's really hard because, you can get a points, you can be in the lead, and then you get into the finals day. And that finals day on Saturday, man, it's all finals. So it's like the points can rack up either way. You can have heartache and celebration within moments of each other. And so I didn't, I am having a little bit of guilt. I did not go out to Pueblo. I had just gotten back from Orlando and my SWA wanted to go. So I said, okay. I almost adjusted my trip because and, whether they're going to win or not, I just hate to miss anything. But I chose not to go, which means I was then glued to my computer, which is okay too. The video has come so far. And now I'm watching and I'm looking back and forth between the team scores and I'm trying to do now the math. And always said to myself, I'm never going to do the math for track because I just always get it wrong. And I'm starting to do the math. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think we got a shot. We think we got a shot. I'm cheering whether they're going to come in 10th or first, but all of a sudden you start looking like, oh, and I didn't think we had a shot. I thought we were going to come in second, but because I looked at a relay, because you look and see who's left in the relays, because they're going to score a point or two no matter what, because only 8 relays go. And I mistook a team logo for a logo of another team. I'm like, oh shoot, Adams State has got a relay. It wasn't. It was the wrong paw print. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then someone said congratulations. I'm like, it's not over. And so I'm arguing with people. And then finally I realized, oh my gosh, we have this. So I'm sitting there nervous for at least another 20 minutes and they're already probably celebrating. So I think it's just never, I think the story there is you don't pay attention to the scoreboard always. You just keep grinding and I think that's what they did in the 1500 is they weren't worried about the score. They were just not worried. I don't even think they were worried. That composure piece shows up a lot when you need to come through with your best performance when your team needs it worst and most. And so I just think they just allowed the competition to flow through them. And they talked about that. They're like, man, we just went out there and it's amazing how much energy we had at the end that propelled them to just get ahead of that Adams State kid, because she came in 3rd, we came in 1-2. That changes position, they win, right? So it's really excitement. It's like a soap opera.
I like that. Well, good. Hey, so what I liked your word earlier, teammateship. You know, but for track, still you have the team aspect of it, but it's very individual, right? I mean, you're out there, you're running an individual race. It's all on you, right? So how does the head track coach kind of put a mental aspect into some of that mental toughness? Because one, you're out there by yourself, but two, there's a lot of injuries at track too that people don't really realize.
Yeah, the nagging injuries and they're gutting through it, right? So I think our track coaches, all of them do a great job, even though they have their individual position groups, if you will, right? Their event groups. They do a great job of ensuring that they're always coming back together. And then when you qualify that many student athletes, and then you have some that'll make the trip, it brings some energy, right? When you got 5 or 6 kids, I've seen a school come in 3rd place with 7 kids They just were fast at everything, right? But when you got 40 kids, right, you can bring a lot of energy, and then you get the parents and the fans. When you can bring that kind of energy, there is this I look around the track when I've been there, I'm like, "Man, this is cool." Right? There is a lot of energy, a lot of cheering, and I ask it's like the swimming. I ask people, "Do you hear all this loud?" I mean, swimmers, you're underwater, but even track, they said, "Yeah, we hear it. We hear it, we feel it. You can feel the vibration, you can feel the energy." I don't even have to know if someone's catching up to me by looking backwards, I can feel it, right? Because of that energy, and then you in and you can see when you come around the turns and you see all your teammates lining that, bank, they say it's such a motivating force, and so I think it's just the energy that's created when you qualify that many student athletes, and I'll give a lot of credit to our coaching staff and the culture they create by making sure that they're not just always focusing on their event groups, that they are intentional about bringing those teams together and creating opportunities, whether it's team building, whether it's just creating opportunities where they can cross over, um, and just I think they feel it from each other too, that there's something special in our track program, that they don't have to, uh, be mechanical about it, like, "We're gonna do these events, or we're gonna do these activities so that we can all be together." They find each other, and so they feed off each other's energy. So it's just the students do it more than our coaches have to, guide it as much as people would think.
You talk about that culture to win multiple national titles in the same season across completely different sports. What does that say about the overall culture and competitive standard at Grand Valley?
Well, I think, 1, Grand Valley is a phenomenal school to recruit to. We have a great product to sell in terms of Grand Valley State University from, a liberal arts university. It's a bigger university, but it doesn't feel big. Um, you can get both a rural and an urban experience at Grand Valley. Grand Rapids, West Michigan is a phenomenal place to be. So 1, you have a great product to recruit to. 2, we've done a lot to enhance the student athlete experience beyond the track, beyond their sport, to make sure we're delivering on the rest of the promise. And what I mean by that is we have the Laker Academic Success Center. We have the student athlete engagement and development, where we're developing them beyond the classroom. We have a very active student athlete advisory committee. We do a lot with trying to support each other, and then creating that campus atmosphere. Um, and then we have coaches who are competitive at their core. And for as much as people assume we have a lot of resources and we have everything, that's not necessarily the truth. Some of our competitors' operating budgets they get from the university are far bigger, but our coaches work their tails off to fundraise and camps and clinics to be able to support the program and do the things in a way that they feel it's going to give, 1, a student athlete experience, but also create that competitiveness, right? Our track team is a perfect example. They work their tails off so they can go to South Florida and catch a tailwind, or go to California and catch a tailwind, and get good weather so they can qualify. That takes a lot of work. We could probably just do track meets within a 4-hour radius, but it's being able to deliver it that way, or not deliver it, but I think give them student athletes those experiences to give them the best shot at success, because we make no guarantees. We don't place expectations at first as the ultimate goal, but we play it to win. But I tell coaches, just give them a shot. Create an atmosphere, run your program in a way that gives the student athletes a shot. 3, I think they have a great eye, a great knack for recruiting quality student athletes that have a huge upside. Division II, you're not getting elite athletes, but can you pick out and chase the ones that have an upside, the potential? And then 4, can you develop that? Can you develop that? So I think our coaches are great teachers of their game and their craft. Um, and I think those are the key ingredients, is that we have coaches that don't complain about what they don't have. They go to work and figure out how to get what they need to create a competitive experience, recruit competitive student athletes, and then ultimately graduate. And then when it's all said and done, if we ask them, if you had the choice to choose again, would you choose Grand Valley? If the answer continues to be yes, we're doing something right. And it doesn't mean it's always ending in a national championship, because we've had teams that, have been close. We've had teams that have had struggle, but in the end, all of them have said, "Yeah, I choose this again," or most of them anyway.
Can you, so when you talk about recruiting specific, to the success you've had in track, because I don't think if you look nationally, a lot of people will be like, oh, Michigan's a track state, right? I mean, so there's got to be something there. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, how the track coach finds this talent, and whether it's in Michigan or outside, but brings them to Grand Valley State.
Yeah. I mean, I gosh, I they just are willing to go put in the work. They spend a lot of time on the road, put a lot of hours into understanding the networks of where these track athletes are, but we're still a regional university. I think if you looked at our roster, you'd see some national flavor from east to west, but for the most part, we're doing it within our footprint. And we've always said you got to win the backyard. Now, the backyard might be Greater Grand Rapids, but it might be the Midwest, and at least give a shot. And I think it's also we're getting some student athletes that will choose to come to Grand Valley for that championship experience. And so those are the kids, that's the it factor, that they're not enamored by going to the school with a one by it, that what they want is like, I want that experience, a championship experience. And so I think our track program especially, can sell that to say, "You know what? You got a shot." And then they see also them, having opportunities at Olympic trials, so they can still get to that pinnacle, if you will, a shot at being on an Olympic team by coming through Grand Valley. Because then that speaks to our coaches and our ability to develop talent. Our coaches pour into our student athletes, s in the practice hours, beyond the practice hours, and I think that's the word on the street, and I think that's what student athletes want. They want a place they can get a good education, they want a place to have a good experience, they want a place that, "Man, I got a shot at being the best," and a championship experience is far better than going to another school where you're just running on the track team and maybe the pinnacle of your career is a conference championship, right? So, at least that's what I think. It's hard to say what's in the psyche of students today, but, I think, again, our track program especially has a great story that is hard to argue with.
You've been a part of Grand Valley for years, first as softball coach, now as AD. How has your coaching background helped you build a culture where excellence isn't just encouraged, it's expected?
I was not a softball coach at Grand Valley. I was the associate. I came in 2000. That's okay. I was at a rival school. I spent 15 years as a softball coach, so that part is
Okay.
true, at a rival
Okay.
school. And then I arrived at Grand Valley in 2011 as the associate AD, and then became the AD in 2016. But my coaching background, people always ask me, how do you become an AD? I says the number one thing that prepared me most for the sit in this chair is I was being a coach and student athlete because I've walked in the shoes of the people I'm serving. So it gets to your point about excellence being an expectation. We don't talk about expectations. I don't like the word expectations. I think expectations are what people think you should do. We talk about standards. What is our standard here? What is your standard within your program? Are you clear on those standards? Because standards are what you do. And I don't say to them, the expectation is for you to win a national championship. I will say individuals create their own expectations. And I think that's what makes our coaches special too, is they want to win at the highest level. They are truly seeking that. They're competitive at their core. Um, but we don't talk about the expectations of excellence. What we do is how can we bring that to life? What does that look like in your program? What does excellence look like in what you do every day? And so we talk about the standards of excellence. We talk about going beyond high performance. And going beyond high performance means that you're not just asking what am I capable of, but what are we capable of? And figuring out how you can make sure each of your programs don't feel like they're on their own island, that they feel supported by each other, by our administrative and support staff, by across campus, and by our community. And so it's really changing the question, what do we need to achieve, to what are we capable of? And always seeking that.
Oh, love it. The winning is incredible, but we know that your vision goes deeper than the
Mhm.
scoreboard. How does GVSU help athletes grow into leaders off the court, off the field, and beyond graduation?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's something we talk about earlier when I talked about delivering on the other half of the promise. I think our coaches go into their living rooms and talk to these student athletes and parents about the experience they're going to have through their sport, the great education they're going to get. I think they still also talk about the other, but that's the other part of it, but that's for administrators and support staff. What are we doing to deliver on the rest of that? And so that is part of it is, our football talks about, um, this 5 for the next 50, right? Invest and we're gonna invest in you for the next 5, but it's not just for 5, it's so that it's for the next 50. And so part of that is, when I took over as the athletic director, I created a new position, student athlete, a welfare and development associate AD. It's now renamed student athlete engagement and development. We have a new staff member coming in, but that's what that person does. And then we have a director of student athlete experience, and that is making sure we've invested in resources and people that are going to drive that experience too, whether it's the student athlete advisory committee opportunities, leadership development, assisting with financial planning, mental health, right? Making sure we're assisting in those things, setting our student athletes up to engage in those types of development beyond the classroom and beyond the courts.
And then I have to ask, the support you get from Grand Valley community is incredible. What role does the campus and fan base play in fueling all of that championship energy?
Yeah, I think, people want to be around winners. And I think if you can put that good product on the field, we don't have pro sports in Grand Rapids, right? We have a minor league baseball team, got minor league basketball. We do have pro volleyball now. But it's the minor leagues. You don't have the big NFL or MLB teams. So I think people see Grand Valley as an opportunity to bring their family, engage in a great product on the field. And not have to spend a whole bunch of time in the car or a whole bunch of money to do it. And that's what we're trying to capture, right? And we do it through the camps and clinics, having camp days where the campers come back. I would say football draws the community the most. Next would be your basketballs, right? And then from there, we're trying to figure out different ways to engage the community. You would think we would, all of our arena would be full for every game, but it's not. We're still Division II athletics, but I think there is a great connection from our community, and I think there's an even bigger upside. And you've touched on something that I think about constantly: is how do we get more of the community to see the product that Grand Valley has? Our women's basketball team. Obviously, we saw spectatorship go up, right? The more so to me, I ask my question, are we putting it out there as much as we can? Possibly can. Are we marketing that success? And so I think it's a constant battle because there's so much also as successful as they are, you would think our stands would be full, but they're not. I think it's one of those things that we think about. There's so many other things to do in Grand Rapids. There's so many other things families do. Are we doing all we can to capture the market? And once we do, though, once we get them, we find that we got them and they stay. It's just a constant movement to try and get them interested and stay interested. Well, it's a constant battle to get them interested, but we know when they do, they stay interested.
We touched on the basketball and the track, but you guys had many other programs this year that maybe didn't reach the national championship standard, but they had very successful seasons as well. What were some of those benchmarks that you guys had?
Yeah, gosh, if I go back to the fall, you got um, volleyball, football, cross country, all had successful seasons. I mean, you look at what they did, and okay, they made it to the regionals, they made it to the playoffs. You don't wanna take that for granted. That's still really hard to do, right? They're competing at the top of the conference. We never look past the conference. Does that mean they all won it? No. Cross country by a landslide. Yeah, they got the corner on the market conference-wise, but volleyball, football didn't win their conference, but they were at the top. And then they achieved to the next level in terms of postseason. So that's a win for sure. Women's soccer went on to the Elite Eight. Um and, so again, they didn't make it to the championship game. And people say, man, you look at women's soccer, especially to get 6 national championships. Like, oh, what's wrong with your soccer team? Nothing, because that's really hard to do. But you know what? They had a shot. They had a shot. We went down to PKs. It goes another way. We're in the Final Four, right? And so I always remind people this is really hard to do. And as long as we have a shot at it, that's success. Then you go to the winter, obviously, women's basketball. Our men's and women's swimming and diving programs had phenomenal seasons. For the first time, our men's program came in fourth, both top 10 teams. We won 2 relays, which if you have not ever watched a swimming relay, just like track relays, they're one of the most exciting things in sports because it's just truly a fraction of a second. And so that was a big highlight for our winter sports. Women's wrestling, brand new year for women's wrestling, first year program, came in 4th place as a team. Very first year program. Our head women's wrestling coach, coach of the year. So a phenomenal start to a new story, a new chapter for Grand Valley Athletics. So that was super exciting as well. Of course, the track teams did well again at the indoor track championships, and it was a festival year, so they were all down in Indianapolis. Men's and women's swimming, men's and women's indoor track and field, and then men's wrestling was all in Indianapolis. So it was really a lot of great energy around our teams to have them all there. Spring, I think, we've already talked about track, but baseball made the regionals, extra innings, decided whether they went to the super regionals. So again, had a shot. Our baseball program has improved tremendously. And so that's a win. And when people look back at where our baseball program was, we got a new coach. He's in his 2nd year. You see the trajectory. That's just as exciting to me as the outdoor national championship because it shows growth, it shows development, it shows a great investment in people. But one of my favorite highlights was our men's tennis team won the conference championship, which they haven't done since 1973. And then they went on to the Elite Eight. They got out of the regional, went on to the Elite Eight. So that was a really special occasion. That's in one of my top 5s in terms of, that sport. Women's tennis made the regionals. Lacrosse made the regionals. Brand new coach. And so that's great too. She won a GLIAC championship and made the regionals, made the 2nd round. So successes in so many ways.
You guys are definitely doing something right over there.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Whatever's
women's
in the
golf.
water.
Yeah, women's
Yeah.
golf was 3 strokes out of the medal match play, so came in 9th, and just showed a lot of resiliency out in Vegas. It's just there's all these moments, and then the best moments maybe aren't the ones that necessarily win in end in a national championship, but there's all these moments of greatness and of competitive greatness that I see in our student athletes. That maybe were the difference between 10th and 9th, the difference between winning that relay and not winning that relay, that make it special. And you try to just be present for as many of them because that's the fun part of being an AD.
You guys have already had an historic year, but knowing Grand Valley, the goals don't stop here. What's next for the department as you look toward the future seasons and beyond?
Yeah. Well, first I have to really get my staff to recharge the batteries this summer. But it doesn't last long because, we roll in right to the planning stages of the next year. And I think we try not to. This is those things that we try to take care, wrap up the 6 inches in front of our face, wrap it all up, make sure we put a bow, make sure we celebrate it. Because I think, again, we don't want to ever take for granted that the success is easy. Once we do that, then we turn the page and we're, our new hashtag, you'll probably see is hashtag ready for more. Right? It doesn't mean we're trying to do more or work harder, but it's just how can we think about that? What are we capable of? And we start to have those conversations as we look to the next year.
All right, Carrie, it's time for game time decisions. We'll ask fast questions and you
Okay.
can give fast answers. Ready?
All right.
Okay. Best moment from this championship season.
Men's tennis making the Elite Eight.
One leadership book or podcast that you would recommend to other coaches.
Ooh. Novus Global, Meta Performance, and I'm reading Beyond High Performance.
One
Jason
quality,
Jaggard, I think his name. Yeah.
Okay. One quality every great coach must have.
Competitiveness.
What's more intense, the final 2 minutes of a basketball title game or the last leg of a national relay?
Last leg of a relay. It's a 10th of a second, 100th of a second.
Yeah. Favorite Laker tradition?
Favorite Laker tradition. Laker Pride and Tradition event is the one time in the year that we kick off the year with absolutely everybody in the stadium, all 700 student athletes, all staff, where we take them look at last year's achievement. We actually have both the trophies out there, the President's Cup and the Director's Cup, and we then ceremoniously put them away. And we start over. Maybe my
Love
favorite
that.
moment.
That is fun. Loudest GVSU crowd moment that you've witnessed?
Women's Basketball National Championship.
If you had to coach one GVSU sport for a day besides softball, what would it be?
Ooh, if I had to coach it for a day. I would love to coach soccer.
Describe your leadership style in one emoji.
You want emoji? Um, it'd be the emoji with the eyes wide open, like,
Love it. Oh, perfect, Carrie. Well, congratulations again to your
thank you.
coaches, your student athletes on an absolutely unforgettable year. Before we go, what is one piece of advice that you would give to an up and coming athletic director or coach who would love to build a culture like Grand Valley's?
Ooh, been thinking about a couple things. Have patience in decision making and in listening. Be clear in your purpose and be present for everyone. I think sometimes we get spread thin and you're not as present as you need to be. So presence, patience, and purpose.
Perfect. That is going to be a wrap for today's episode of Building a Champion. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow sports fans and leaders. Thank you again, Carrie, for joining us today. And until next time, keep striving, keep leading, and keep building champions.